Now you should be at the picnic table on Knobcone Point Road. This is a great place to compare the most common pine in the park, the gray or foothill pine, and the much rarer knobcone pine. Right across the trail from the picnic table is an easy-to-access knobcone pine. When we made this guide in 2011, it was only about 8 feet tall. 20 paces uphill from that is a tall, wispy gray pine. We'll start with the little guy, the knobcone pine.
Here's one of our first little knobcones. I remember the controlled burn 8-10 years ago that happened the year before he was born. I can know that so exactly because knobcones are closed cone pines, and the pine cones are in a circle around the trunks, tightly against the trunk, almost like a tick, and the pine cones are closed. Each year's pine cones are added onto the total, and as the trunk gets bigger, it can actually grow around the pine cones, and knobcones are known as the pine that eats itself. And then finally there's a fire. The tree burns, the pine cones pop open, seeds are scattered everywhere, and the next year you have a huge germination of pine seedlings, all the same age, all from the same year. As we go around the corner past Balancing Rock, we'll see a whole forest of young pines, all exactly 33 years old from the 1978 Black Hawk fire. They all germinated the next year, and they're starting to die from drought stress, too many competing for too little water. Their branches are so close together that you can't walk through them, but bark beetles can, and so beetles are starting to thin them out. This one here next to the fire road, he's the anomaly. He's unusual. He's already started reproducing. His foliage is much more dense and darker than the gray pines standing right next to him. So these guys look more like Christmas trees than the ghostly gray pines that look so wispy that they're more of a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. We're looking across the Knobcone Basin to Black Hawk Ridge, the back side of it, which is wooded with a little grassland along the top. Just on the other side, it'll be solid, chamise-dominated chaparral, the quintessential Black Hills. But here, a little bit more recessed. The topography is much more complicated. It's hummocky. It turns from north to south to east to west facing in a short distance, and all of that change is selecting for different dominant plant species, and it looks like a tide pool. There's dozens of different plants fighting for dominance, and they're all different shades of greens and grays, and frankly, just gorgeous. Everything changes at the top of the ridge. It's windier. It's exposed to north and east sides. But there are oak trees along the top here, and some that have even made it partway down into the chaparral. In some places, they can build up enough organic matter that they change the habitat, make it more moist, and defeat fires. Redwoods are famous for that, moderating the environment enough that they make the chances of fire much, much lower. But these guys are in a futile quest. They can try to get their acorns out for a few generations, but the reality is they're at the top of a little canyon, and when the chaparral down below catches fire, this is going to turn into a blast furnace. These oak trees and the organic matter they built up in the soil will both be burnt to a crisp and sent back into the atmosphere as carbon. And the chaparral will spread up and over this ridge into the oak woodland areas a little bit as well.
Our next stop, Balancing Rock, lies ahead about 3/4 of a mile. That's 15 minutes or so. As you're walking along a shady part of the trail, the rock will suddenly loom up on your right.